Hello everyone. My name is Julie Niederhauser and I'm going to be doing the What is OWL video conference today. So if you want to do a quick introduction, just let everybody know where you are and what your name is, that'd be great. Why don't we start with the lady at the top in the red shirt. You want to introduce yourself and your library?
Yeah, my name is Alana Tuzna, and I'm with the Chiniak Public Library.
Okay, great. Now there's nice to meet you, Alana. And there's somebody underneath you in like a yellow shirt sitting at a table. What's your name and where are you from? In the bottom yellow shirt, you want to turn your microphone on and introduce yourself? Perfect.
I'm assuming that's you're talking to me.
Yes.
I'm Barbara Budnick, and I am with the Palmer, Alaska Public Library.
Okay, great. What was your first name again?
Barbara?
Barbara. Hi, welcome, Barbara. Nice to meet you. And then we have two ladies over here. If you want to introduce yourself to everybody, let everyone know who you are and where you're from.
I'm Kathy Morgan with the Tote Community Library, and this is Debbie.
Hi.
Okay, hi Debbie and Kathy. Okay, great. So my name's Julie Niederhauser, and I think Shane Southwick is going to be joining us. I know we talked about it, but I'm going to go ahead and get started because we have a limited amount of time to get through the presentation. So I work here at the Alaska State Library. I'm the outreach librarian, and you probably have met Shane or heard about him. He's the OWL network coordinator for the Alaska State Library. And this presentation is going to kind of give you an idea of how the OWL project came about, why it came about, what some of the goals were, and you know, what they've achieved so far. Hey, I think I see Shane at the bottom. Hey, Shane. Hello. Yay, you want to introduce? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next slide. So a couple of years ago, the Alaska State Library recognized that there was a critical need for improved internet services in many regions of Alaska, and that there was a tremendous opportunity for them to provide Alaskans, specifically the rural residents, with access to the internet so they could have access to civic information, educational information, social services information, the kind of things that their communities needed that they weren't able to get without the internet. So I'm going to go ahead and make this. So in 2010, the Alaska State Library envisioned a statewide network of 97 public computer centers located in libraries, which would provide free access to the internet and serve as a common information exchange point between citizens and civic organizations. And these public internet or public computer centers would, you know, extend opportunities for online education, job training, and delivery of those vital social services that I was talking about earlier. So with the assistance of some key operational partners, the Alaska State Library would hire and train residents in rural communities to serve as local IT support. And some of you may be familiar with that program. And they hoped to actually create like 65 part-time jobs in some of these rural communities where jobs are hard to come by and a trained workforce is even harder to come by. And this idea that they envisioned became known as the Alaska OWL Project. And it would also address Alaska's communication and broadband isolation by dynamically assigning enough broadband at libraries to support basic web activities and video conferencing. Because what they found out, they did a survey of all the libraries in the state, and they found that 82% of them had provided internet access to their patrons and users, but that internet access wasn't adequate enough to do all of the things that we need to do with the internet. So it was really important that we kind of improved that broadband access. So this is the point where Shane's going to jump in and talk about the broadband and talk about what the OWL project kind of hoped to achieve.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I just want to know, and I apologize for jumping in here late. I thought I was added to the conference, and then I was waiting and waiting, and finally there was some miscommunications, but I got added. So I want to know who is with us today. So I know we have Julie in Juneau, and do we have Chiniak? Is Alana here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
Hi,
I'm here.
Alana.
Hi.
And Toke?
Yes, we're here. I'm
Very
Kathy.
nice. And in Palmer, who's with us in Palmer?
Hi, we're here. This is Teresa and Barbara.
Oh, hi, Teresa and Barbara. Welcome. So.
And Sonia and Dillingham.
Okay, we have Dillingham too here. Very, very nice. Well, what Julie was telling you about is a little bit about broadband, and what we needed to do based on the information and the data we had collected is that we felt that it was important that we give everybody in the state access to high-speed broadband. Now, what does that mean? The slide that Julie has up has definitions of what different agencies feel high-speed broadband is. The U.S. Department of Commerce defines broadband as 786K download by 200K upload. And if you know anything about broadband and internet, you know that is very, 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 very slow. It's not good in today's world of broadband. So the OWL project came in, and we decided to go with what the American Library Association defines as high-speed broadband, and that's 1.5 megabits of speed, upload and download speed. So it's symmetrical, the same up and the same down. And again, we know that 1.5 is not a lot, it's not huge, it's not great, especially compared to some places in the rest of the lower 48. But, you know, from what a lot of our libraries were working with when we came in, this is a substantial step increase in speed and a big step in the right direction. So we're pleased with being able to offer 1.5 megabits up and down. And the National Broadband Plan is calling for 1 gigabits for community anchor institutions such as libraries and schools and those types of things within the next few years. 1 gigabits is probably not going to happen here in Alaska because of our unique challenges. And so what the governor did is he put together a State of Alaska Broadband Task Force to analyze, broadband in Alaska, what it would take to get, higher, more adequate speed into rural Alaska, and they came up with a plan of getting 100 megs into all anchor institutions within the next 5 years. And that's a pretty aggressive plan. They're still working out the details. The actual plan should be released from the State Broadband Task Force here within the next 2 weeks. So we'll have a better idea of their recommendations to the governor as far as high-speed broadband in Alaska. But the good news is we are moving in the right direction. We are increasing speeds, and we do understand the importance and how critical it is to have broadband in rural Alaska in our library and our community anchor institutions.
All right, thank you, Shane. Did anyone have questions about what Shane just talked about the broadband and what that means for your library or your community before we go on?
No.
Oh, no? Yes? Okay. All right, let's go on. Okay, so the Alaska OWL project consists of 3 interrelated activities, creating the public computer and video conferencing centers at libraries, the training and hiring of local IT support, and expanding the broadband, or increasing the broadband so library users can experience useful and usable access to the internet. And speaking of the IT support, all libraries participating in the OWL project are eligible to apply to have a part-time IT aide, and the IT aides will receive training paid by the L project, and they may work up to 7 hours a week and receive an hourly wage of about $20 an hour, which is pretty darn good. So if your library doesn't have a local IT aide and you want one, you should contact Shane and let him know that.
We don't have one, and we would like one, but I thought that that only applied to libraries that are open less than 20 hours per week.
Hey, who said that? Was that Tote?
That's Kathy and Toke.
Okay, Kathy, you are eligible. We changed those requirements because we had put money in there and we had some excess money, so we opened that up to every library. So if you are interested in that, we can get an application out to you. We can probably get that to you today. The way it works is we'll send you an application for some money, and you fill out that application. And once that's done and you have a plan in place where you can hire somebody, then we'll give you that money and you can move forward with that. It's not that difficult of a process. So when this is over, you know, we'll talk, or I'll send you an email and we'll get that information right out to you. Okay?
That's outstanding. Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome, Kathy.
Okay, this is a map, a Google map of the Alaska libraries participating in the OWL project, and it kind of gives you an idea of the scope of the project. So the OWL project has positively impacted libraries from Barrow to Ketchikan. It's important to keep in mind that only communities that had a library could participate in OWL and benefit from the OWL project. So there's still pockets or areas in Alaska where people don't have access to public computing centers, and they're kind of missing out. So I just wanted to make that note. This is a photograph of Jonas Lamb, a Juneau public librarian. He's actually just recently acquired a job at the University of Alaska Southeast, receiving computer equipment from the OWL project. And one of the stipulations of the grant was that libraries couldn't receive computer and video conferencing equipment until they had. Now, Shane, you corrected me yesterday. I think what you said was that they had to have broadband that was at up to at least 786 kilobytes. Is that correct?
We couldn't provide equipment, you're right, until libraries had reached the standards set by the Department of Commerce. If we refer back to that previous slide, it was 786 by
Okay.
200. So 786 download, 200 upload. So until a library reached that level of broadband, we were not allowed to put equipment into that library.
Okay, great. So one of the goals of the Alaska OWL project was to ensure that Alaskans, even those Alaskans in isolated rural areas, could experience the internet in a useful way. And libraries with public computing centers provide everyone, especially our vulnerable populations, the low-income individuals, the unemployed, seniors, children, minorities, and people with disability, with free access to the internet. Additionally, library staff provide training, digital literacy training, basic computer skills training, and also provide electronic content. They subscribe to electronic content and then make that content available to their patrons. So access to the information provided on the internet is important, but also it's the new knowledge that people create with that information that's also important. So the OWL project is really, it's more than just building better libraries, it's really about building better communities. So these are the financial partners to the project. The total cost of the OWL project was $8.25 million. The bulk of the money, or the bulk of the funding, came from a U.S. Department of Commerce BTOP grant. That was $5.4 million. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation also contributed $1.65 million in a cash match over 2 years. Alaska's Rasmussen Foundation contributed $250,000 in a cash match. And the Alaska State Library contributed $250,000 in a cash match and significant personnel contributions to the project. The Alaska OWL project has had a statewide impact, and a project of this size requires support, cooperation, and coordination of several key operational partners. The Alaska Library Network serves as the key administrative partner for the project. The Alaska Library Association promotes participation in OWL to its membership, promotes participation in the Public Library Broadband Network to its membership. AFTAC is responsible for establishing a baseline for local information technology support and providing the necessary training for the local library IT hires. And then the University of Alaska Office of Information Technology is partnering with the project, is partnering with the Public Library Broadband Network and maintaining an adequate IT support at the local level, and they also maintain the video conferencing network. So when you set up an OWL video conferencing and you're submitting that online form to Matt in Fairbanks, that's where the university comes in. Okay, so for each community, its own solution became the slogan for the OWL project, and each community has unique needs, and a one-size-fits-all approach simply wouldn't work in Alaska. So each library received equipment that met their needs and their unique space limitations. A one-room library couldn't accommodate a 55-inch screen, whereas a larger library with a separate conference room could. And Shane, if you would be so good as to talk about this again, that would be great.
Okay. You know, and this is a perfect, you know, this conference this is a perfect example of that, because I think we have both of the video conferencing types with us in this conference. So again, we understand the dynamic that we're working with here. So we did some research and we got some input from each library participating in the project as far as space goes, as far as what equipment they wanted, as far as what video conferencing piece would work best for their library and best for their community. And the picture, I believe, is from Craig in that we're looking at, and that's a 55-inch monitor that goes with a C20 video conferencing unit. And I believe on our call today, Palmer has one of those, and Dillingham, I believe, has one. Tokyo have the smaller unit because of space and because of the size of your library. So, you know, all the video conferencing that we put into the libraries all works the same. Just one picture is bigger than the other, but I think the smaller one actually has a better picture on it because it's not so large. But they all work the same, and they all function the same. So nobody is limited to what they can participate in or how they can participate in our video conferences. And we thought that was an important piece. So, and I believe there's a picture coming up for those of you that haven't seen the small one or haven't seen the big one. There's a picture coming up that shows them both. But the important thing was we wanted to fit our equipment with the needs of each individual library, and I think we did that with the video conferencing and having these different options. So I hope that's what you needed, Judith.
It was, Shane. Thank you very much. And this is the picture that Shane was actually talking about. In the photograph is Matt Schiffler. He's the person responsible for coordinating and scheduling the OWL video conferences. And in this photograph, he's training OWL participants on using the video conferencing equipment. So on the wall, you'll see the larger 55-inch screen, and underneath by his hands is a smaller one. So OWL has delivered over 4,000, I think this is an amazing number, 4,318 hours of training over the past 14 months. And remember, we mentioned earlier that the Alaska State Library has contributed a significant amount of personnel time to this project. And I think that's pretty indicative of the amount of time that Alaska State Library staff have dedicated to the project. And the OWL training has been delivered via webinar, video conferencing, face-to-face, and through audio conferencing. Also, 35 new jobs have been created as a result of the OWL project, and 30 of those jobs are those local IT support aides, and they are working in libraries across Alaska. So this project has just had so many positive impacts on the state of Alaska that I think it's It's really quite an amazing project. So Shane, if you'd be so kind to talk about the progress to date, that'd be great.
Okay. Now I'll throw out this project. We are required, and some of you know this because we've asked you for information and from data from your library, but we're required to report on our progress to all of our funding agencies. So the Department of Commerce, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, in fact, just earlier this week on Wednesday, or on Monday, sorry, we had a meeting with the Rasmussen Foundation to give them an update on how we're spending their money. So we keep track of the progress as we've gone through this project. And that's what this arrow chart that we're looking at demonstrates. And you can see with that, there were 67 public libraries in the state that had broadband below 1.5 so we went into these facilities and we gave them an increased broadband speed. Now some libraries, like the Palmer Library, got an additional line in addition to what they already had just to support their video conferencing. So with that they have increased broadband into their library, and they have a solid video conferencing line set up that is dedicated just for that. So of the 67 libraries that needed the broadband upgrade, we are at 63. We still have 4 libraries outstanding. Those are Igiagig, which we are currently working on. The Mountain View branch here in Anchorage, they had their conduit buried in concrete, so we weren't able to run cable line or internet lines in through their conduit, so that's in the process of being chipped out. The Chugiak Eagle River branch library is one of the 4. We decided to run fiber optic cable into them instead of a T1, so down the road they can potentially have much more broadband capacity. And Tanana is the other one. So there's those 4 libraries that are not connected with this yet, and there's in each one of those there are sort of unforeseen circumstances that came up. So we're almost there. We're almost at 100%. But if you see at the next arrow, we're at 99%, and that's libraries that have received and put their computer equipment, their new computers, their laptops, their printers, all those things, they are put into use in their library. And we have 1 library left, and the reason they don't have their computer equipment is what we were talking about earlier, is they don't have broadband speeds that the Department of Commerce will allow us to give them equipment. So until they get those broadband speeds, which we're working on, they can't get equipment. So we're 1 library short of being complete there. The video conferencing piece, we have about 50 endpoints online. An endpoint is where we're all at right now, where we have a codec and video conferencing in place and functioning in the library. We want 97. However, with video conferencing, it's a bit more difficult because there's some programming and some configuration and things that need to happen. Most of you guys, as well as us, are on the GCI network. A lot of sites are outside excuse me, of the GCI network, so there's that added layer of complication in trying to work with another internet provider, whether it's ACS or MTA or Copper Valley or APT or Starband, whatever the case may be in some of these places that we're working with. So we have every video conferencing unit ordered or in the library. We just need to get them installed and tested. And we see that's not a simple process in some of these locations, which is why we're only at 52% on that. And then, as Julie was talking about earlier, we can hire aides, and we thought there would be 56 libraries eligible for aides. When we changed that and made everybody eligible for aides, we really increased that number and the people that wanted them. Not everybody wants them, because some libraries have their own IT staff and they don't need them. But we're at 38 library aides right now, and of those library aides, the last one on there is the training. Out of the 97 libraries, we've had training for 80 of those libraries. We've had representatives from each one of those 80 libraries to attend training, whether it was here in Anchorage or in Fairbanks or in Barrow, wherever we've offered training. We've had people come in, and we're looking down the road to begin to offer some more training. You know, probably February, March, April, we'll have some more curriculum developed for some more training ideas. So I'm sure you will all be getting some notices from us about some other training opportunities coming down the road. So we're really pleased with our progress to date. And some of these areas, you know, we can certainly get better. But what we've done in the project and accomplishing what we've accomplished is, you know, we're pretty proud of that. So, you know, we know there's more to do, but we're right on target with where we should be.
Thank you, Shane. So speaking of the video conferencing, the OWL Video Conference Network has provided rural Alaska residents with access to distance education and professional development opportunities. Video conferencing participants have attended writers' conference, author talks, explored a dinosaur museum, attended a presentation with the Toledo Zoo and the Great Barrier Reef, as well as job interviewing and much, much more. I think Shane said earlier in another video conference that there's usually 2 video conferences scheduled per day. And so this video conferencing network is getting a lot of use. And I would encourage all of your libraries to not only participate in attending them, but also in creating your own content and sharing it out with others in our state. This is a photograph of teacher Joy Ann Hamilton. She's using the video conferencing equipment from Anchorage to meet with her students back in the Iditarod School District. So most of you are probably aware of the Alaska OWL web page. I've gone ahead and put the URL up at the top of this screen. It's www.library.state.ak.us/dev/l.html. You can also get there from the Alaska State Library website. And what I wanted to do was just go over some of the links that are located on the right-hand side of the screen. Let me go back. So you'll see underneath OWL links, you'll see it says OWL project staff, the video conference request, the talking points, which we'll talk about that at the very end, the OWL Facebook page, the OWL webinars, and the OWL calendar. So of course, it's always important to have the contact information readily available, and there's a great photograph of Shane right there. But you also have his phone number and his email address, and there's Sue. So if you have questions about the OWL project, please contact the staff directly and ask them. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. This is the OWL video conference reservation request. So most of you may already be familiar with it, but it's an online form that you complete. You give your event a name, a date, a start time. There's much more to the list. This is just a partial screenshot of it. But you tell them who's going to be giving the presentation and the contact information, and also any libraries that you want to be sure to attend, you can select those. Once you submit that form, it goes to Matt in Fairbanks, and he's the person responsible for scheduling all of the video conferencing, coordinating and scheduling all of the OWL video conferences. He makes sure everything's done correctly and is on hand to help out with any unexpected technological glitches. And in fact, today we actually had one, and I had to call Matt. And it's just great to know that there's someone there in the background helping you out if you need it. This is the OWL video conference calendar, and so once you've submitted your online request and it's been approved, basically, it's added to this conference calendar. So you can always see what's coming up. You don't have to be dependent on the emails that that we send out. If you want to know if you want to plan some programming in your library based on these video conferences, you can look at the calendar and see what's coming up and see which ones you think your library patrons would be interested in attending. A lot of this content comes from the CCL website, and I'm actually going to have Shane go ahead and talk about that because he knows much more about it than I do.
How many of you have used or participated in a CILC conference? I see a few hands up. Is that Dillingham?
Dillingham has.
Okay, I know Palmer has too. I don't know if you or representatives from Palmer have, but I know Palmer's been in a couple of them. But Toke and who else is on? Toke and Juno?
Chiniak?
Chiniak. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
sorry,
we
I
have.
forget about it. You have too as well? Okay. So
We haven't yet. We've been looking at it, but
okay. So that's fine. But what you that have participated know how cool and how fun these CILC conferences can be. There's so much content available out there, and what we've done with Al is we've purchased this content for you. Much of it is that they charge for. I mean, it's anywhere between usually $100 to $300 to access one of these conferences. And what Al has done is we've created a dollar bank within CILC. We put $10,000 in that originally. It's a good chunk of that is gone at this point. But what happens is libraries identify a conference they want, and then they can go in and select that, and Al will pay for it out of this money that we've invested in CILC. And the feedback we're getting from libraries on these conferences is really good. So there is some training out there, and we're in the process right now of making all of this training available via links on how to use the CILC website and schedule conferences. So we have done some training on that. It is available online via the OWL website, or you can just go there and it will be a link and you can watch the training if you have questions on how to schedule a CILC site. But I highly encourage, and I'm sure that those that have joined would second this, but I highly encourage you to look over the CILC programming, find something there, whether it's something that you can use in your schools or just in your library for your adults or children or preschool or whatever the case may be. There's content available there for everybody. And having said that, if you look at the calendar that's up on the screen, you can see the big blue bar. Those are the dates where video conferencing network is really closed over the holidays. We don't have any support. And so we decided rather than to run into some issues, we would just not schedule conferences until January 3rd. So that gives you plenty of time to go through and review the website and with CILC and see if there's something out there you want, and then we can get it scheduled in early January or some point like that. But it is really, 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 really good stuff and really cool. And like I say, it can be anywhere from preschool all the way up to adult library patrons that we can use these conferences for.
Thank you, Jake. Actually, did anyone have questions about the CILC? This is a great opportunity to ask Shane if you had any questions about it. Are any of you hoping to add some content in the future?
The biggest question we've had is regarding EMS training, and I was wondering if any other libraries have come across opportunities for like EMTs to get their continuing education.
I'm not sure we would find specific like EMT training for a certification or whatever the case may be on CILC. I think that would be something that we would need to work with the state of Alaska or some agency that offers that to provide that training over the network. I mean, I don't think we'll find that on CILC, but it's a great idea where we can find somebody who offers that training, and we can go to 3 or 4 sites and we can train people that way with that. So I really like that, and maybe we should talk, Alana, and see exactly what your needs are and find some way to meet those needs.
Great. Okay, so The there's an OWL Facebook page, and it serves as a place for libraries to share stories, ideas, and experiences with the OWL project with one another. So kind of encourage you guys to check out the OWL Facebook page. Maybe if you want to add some comments to it and share your experiences. The idea about the EMS training, see if there's any other libraries or locations, communities around the state that also have that need. Might be a great idea to put that out there and just kind of get an idea of how many other locations are looking for the same kind of information along it. That'd be great. This is a photograph from the OWL Sustainability Summit that occurred in September of 2012. OWL sponsored a sustainability summit in Anchorage where members of the Governor's Broadband Task Force, state officials, business leaders, heads of telecommunication companies, and all of the participating libraries had a representative at the summit as well. And they were invited to share information and generate ideas on how we can keep the OWL project sustainable into the future. I was fortunate to attend the summit. It was amazingly well. It was incredibly informative. I didn't really understand the project before I attended it and the scope of it, and there was a lot of high energy there. So many people wanting this project to continue. So it was really a worthwhile event and well done. Shane, is there anything you want to add about the summit?
Yeah, we just, I know it's been a couple months, and some of you attended the summit, but the feedback and stuff that we just were able to finish compiling some of the feedback from the summit that you all provided for us this week, and put that into like a spreadsheet, and it's really been invaluable. We looking down the road how we can sustain the project. The last thing we wanted to do is give everybody high-speed broadband, give everybody video conferencing, and then because we didn't have money to sustain it, is to unplug all of this stuff. So we've been working really hard. We have a plan in place to do that. In fact, we received some great news this week when the governor announced his budget for the next year. There was money in that budget to help sustain the OWL project. It's still got to get through the legislature, but we were jumping on tables and dancing on chairs and all that stuff here in the office when we saw that come up, because that was, we've been working really hard to get that. We just got to hope and pray that it gets through the legislature and that we can find some other funding sources. And some of the ideas that you all gave us at the summit are valuable in doing this. So that was well worth what we did, and we really look forward to the future and this project continuing on and on and on.
Thanks, Shay. So kind of to sum up, this is actually that talking point slide that's available from the OWL website, and it kind of gives just points of what the project is hoping to achieve. So if you have anyone who asks you questions about the OWL project and you're really not sure what exactly to say to them, I would encourage you to look at the talking points slide, or that little PDF that's available on the website, and just kind of have a few things that you can share with somebody. The OWL project is here again is to increase the broadband speeds, to provide faster internet connections for rural and remote connections. Our locations in Alaska. It provides computers and laptops to library patrons, more distance education opportunities for students and adult learners throughout Alaska. And I just want to say that as someone who received their master's via distance, that's huge, to allow somebody to stay in the state and work in the state while they're achieving their higher degree is an important thing for the state. It's good for the people, and it's good for the state as a whole. Again, the interactive video conference meetings, such as the one we're attending now, it's a great way for us to share knowledge and information around the state and share our expertise with others in a cost-efficient way. Assisting the small and volunteer libraries in acquiring improved technical skills with those local IT hires. That's huge. A lot of libraries desperately need to have somebody in the community with that expertise, and not only do they help the library, but when you have someone in your community with that kind of knowledge, they help other people too. They help business owners, they help their parents, they help the community as a whole. So that local IT support is another valuable component. And again, to provide information technology training to Alaskans that will enhance their future employment prospects. And I think all of us know that in the future we're going to need these technical skills even more than we need them today. This is the way of the future, and in order for all of us, all of our communities to grow and advance and be healthy, we need to have trained workforce on the ground that can kind of help the whole community move forward. So anyways, those talking points are available on our website, and I encourage all of you to look them over and just kind of memorize one or two of them so that when someone asks you a question about it, you can share the information, the accurate information with them. This is our contact information. If you have any questions, I'm the outreach librarian at the Alaska State Library. I'm always available to help you. And if you have any programming questions, I'll be happy to help you. I can also forward it on to Asia Razumi. Many of you know Asia. Shane's contact information is on the AL website, and it's also here if you have any questions. And I just want to thank all of you for attending and ask it one more time if there's any questions. You know, this is a great opportunity to ask Shane. He's here and available. So if you have a question, this is the best time to do it.
This is Kathy and Toke. I do have a question for Shane. Is it possible to use, to get software through OWL for the laptops that we received from the OWL project? I just discovered that they don't have Microsoft Office on them, and people expect that.
Wait, hold on a minute. That's a problem, because when we, do you have Dell computers, your laptops?
Yes, we do. Yes.
And they don't have Office on them? Because that was part of our standard build and our standard footprint for every computer that we ordered, is that they would come with Microsoft Office 10 on there. So it doesn't have it, really?
One of them for sure does not. I'll check the other one. I just assumed that they were the same.
Yeah, check the other one and let me know. And I'll talk to Alex and see what we can do about getting that to you. But yeah, every computer, whether it's a desktop or the laptops that we sent out, should have the latest version of Microsoft Office on it. So if it doesn't, yeah, we need to know, and we need to get that fixed. So check the other one for us, will you, please?
Okay, I will, and I'll get back to you in email.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Yeah, I just want to echo what Julie said, that you know, these resources are in your office or in your libraries for a reason, to make your patrons, to give them more access to things, to give them more state-of-the-art equipment to use. So, you know, from an OWL project standpoint, you know, we just ask you to let your community know that these resources are available to them, including the video conferencing, and you know, let them know and come into the library and check these things out, because that's why they're there, is for your public and your community to take advantage of. And I know a lot of you are doing that, and we thank you for that.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Have a great holiday.
Thank you.
Thank you, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, Julie.
Bye, Shane.
Bye.